Together we are but first coffee. Susie's just our host, but what matters most is we are a team. Together we are all safe here, and so are you. Among friends and mods we are safe. We talk about trauma, break down drama of life, death, happy or sad, even mad. We discuss it all here. Together we will thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Together we fight cults or fight addictions. If not with experience, with love, and we don't judge. Please understand, this is a safe place to land. Please understand, you're not alone. This is a safe place to land. Together we thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Because we are but first coffee, and Susie welcomes us all here. Together we are but first coffee, and Susie.
Hi, everybody. It is good to be here. I am a little I don't know, nervous about tonight's. I just want to do it justice. I want to do a lady that deserves justice with presenting her story, and so that's what my goal for the night is. So I just want to welcome everybody, and I'm not going to do the normal roll call. But we will be starring comments, and I will take all your comments and everything at the end of the live. And so please ask anything you want, make all the comments you want, talk to each other, everything. I just won't be looking at the chat just because I want to stay on, focus. So anyway, thank you for being here. We are recording this on what is the 30th anniversary of the death of what actually, in my opinion, was a slow, torturous murder of a 36-year-old woman from the Dallas, Texas area named Lisa McPherson. She was a Scientologist, and she died in the care of Scientology. Now, when she died, she had actually moved to Clearwater, Florida, but not for long. So, yeah, it was just very quickly that things went very wrong. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through her final days, the final, I think, 17 days of her life. And I warn you, I do intend for this to be kind of hard to watch. I have put a trigger warning on it. I'm not going to be vulgar or take away from her dignity. There's a lot of details that I'm going to leave out, but I want to leave just enough in that you understand exactly what kind of place we're talking about. This is the story that we know about, but who do we not know about? There's so many deaths that are attributed to the cult of Scientology, whether it be something like Lisa McPherson, where, she suffered and died. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. So, I want it to be hard to watch, but not so hard that you can't. I do warn you, I will be showing autopsy photos. I will warn you before I do it. And I'm not showing any that are gruesome or, again, take away her dignity. What I will show are the bruises and the bites, bug bites, because they say that she died of dehydration, and I don't know. I've been extremely dehydrated before and ended up in the hospital, and I didn't look like this. So that's the only reason I show it. I'm not doing it for any kind of gratuitous reasons. So, anyway, the cult of Scientology, in my opinion, stole her voice along with her life. So, let's get started on this. Okay, and I did write it down because a lot of it I'm going to have to read because I'm reading the actual logs from the Sea Org members that were taking care of her. And I will warn you that the grammar's not good. I mean, it's you can tell what they're saying, but it's not the easiest to make out sometimes. So, um anyway, so in 1994, Lisa McPherson, a longtime Scientologist, moved from Dallas to Clearwater, Florida. I wrote Texas of all things. Ugh. She moved there with her employer, AMC Publishing, and the company was staffed by mostly Scientologists, and the company and the staff wanted to move closer to the, quote unquote, church's spiritual headquarters. Now, I am going to show you this picture. This is not at all graphic. I will warn you before. I have a total of 4 slides, and this is the first. And so the others don't come till later. This is Lisa. This is different pictures that they have of her. This is the Lisa McPherson that her family remembers that left for Clearwater, Florida. This is what they let that what left them, what went to Clearwater. She was the only Scientologist in her family. The family was not Scientologists. It's not really known if they were in support of it. I'm gonna say probably not in huge support of it because nobody else was. But I don't know that in the beginning, or at least until her death, that they actually spoke out a great deal against it. So, anyway, but that's her. That's who we're going to be talking about tonight. Okay. So in September of 95, which was not even a year later, Lisa was 36 years old at the time, and she was publicly declared clear in a ceremony at the Fort Harrison Hotel. In clear in Scientology speak basically is a state in which Scientologists are said to be free of inhibitions caused by engrams, which are painful images in their subconscious. Now, these engrams can be from that life or from millions of other lives that they believe that they have led. So it's kind of a big deal in Scientology to actually, declare that you are clear. Um, there's a whole lot of I'll go into it on other shows about how ridiculous it is and how easy it really would be if they just knew what to say. But as for tonight, for her, it was a huge deal, and they made a big deal out of it. They had a big ceremony. I'm sure there were others also, but it was a big deal. Okay, and she was happy and healthy, and everything was great as far as anybody could tell, okay? So, I did want to mention that in her last 5 years of life, that Lisa, who was not a wealthy woman at all, had spent $175,000 on Church of Scientology auditing in order to try to get to the state of clear, and had finally done that. So, I wondered what that would amount to in today's, currency, and when I looked it up, it was somewhere in the middle of a quarter and a half of $1,000,000, which is a lot if you think about she's just a normal person. She's not one of the wealthy people. So, in 5 years to have spent $175,000, I mean, that's probably a I don't know how she was living, honestly, how she was, paying any bills or anything. So, 2 months after Lisa was declared clear, okay, and to be clear, she had to be what Scientology considered, like, at her absolute best. She was, you know, completely healthy, completely sound mind, completely everything. They make the able more able, and so that's what they were doing with her. She was made more able. She was at the height of everything at that point, she everything. So, anyway, so she this 2 months later after this being declared clear, she was involved in a very minor traffic accident, not hurt, nothing, okay? Um, However, Lisa, for, whatever reason, she stripped off all of her clothes to where she was completely naked, and she was walking around, and she was going up to the paramedics and the firemen and the police and everybody and said, "I need help. I need to talk to someone. I need help." So, she was taken into the Morton Plant Hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. Now, she later had told them whenever they did, they were taking her to the hospital, that the reason that she stripped her clothes off was that she knew that if she did that, that they would pay attention to her and that they would take her in to where she could talk to somebody. So 2 months after being on top of the world, she was so distraught over I don't know what. She's not here to be able to tell us, but she was so distraught over something that she was having an absolute mental break, bad and knew it. So she had some clarity in there that she knew she was. So that tells me that had she gotten help when she was beginning this psychotic break, but was still clear enough to know, and I don't mean clear like going clear, I just mean clear headed enough to know that it was happening. That had she gotten help, there's every indication she would be here today and we wouldn't be doing this show, or we might be doing a show about how she got out of Scientology. It could be a completely different show. So anyway, she was taken to the Morton Plant Hospital for psychiatric evaluation, but within just no time at all, guess who shows up? Members of the cult, OSA. They come to get her. They show up in mass and they talk to her and she ends up signing herself out of the hospital against all the doctor's advice and apparently didn't look happy about it, but looked more scared. So anyway, these OSA, church members, whatever, they took her to the Fort Harrison Hotel where they said that she was being um, checked in there for rest and relaxation, that she just needed to rest, that, you know, everything would be fine. And honestly, I don't know, maybe if everything, on the outside looking in, maybe I can understand where somebody might think she's just really stressed over something and we're just going to let her rest, right? And maybe she thought that. Maybe she thought I just need rest. That's all just my opinion. We don't know. But we do know what happened after that. So, supervising her, if you can call it supervising, her medical care was Janice Johnson. who was not licensed in the state of Florida to practice medicine at all, and she had her license restricted in Arizona. So she really wasn't supposed to be practicing medicine at all, and honestly, she really didn't. Very seldom did she check on Lisa. She just heard through these people that she had watching Lisa what her condition was, and she would tell them what to do. But it wasn't a hands-on kind of deal. I mean, she did see her, but not often. But in 17 days from the day that she had that very minor car accident, she was dead. But in those 17 days, the Sea Org members that were taking care of her did keep a log, and that's what I'm gonna read today. Now, again, I have omitted some of the details that I think would be, either just a little too much or would harm her dignity. There's just some things that we don't know. I just mainly left in stuff that talked about the condition that she was in or her behavior, that kind of thing. But there are some things that I've left out, but not days. I have every day that they charted, I'm gonna mention it. So, anyway, on November 18th. Okay, yeah. I was like, "Is this right? It don't look right." Yes, November 18th at 2:45 PM. It is noted that Lisa is talking since about 30 minutes. I don't know if that should be for about 30 minutes, but since about 30 minutes. And then it says, "I created," or this is what Lisa was saying. "I created time 3 billion years ago, and now I'm dramatizing it since then. I am LRH, and I didn't confront that power. I want to dance. I need my auditor. I need to confront my mom." And they said she was just repeating that same stuff in different orders. It wasn't like she had like an order to it, but that's what she was saying repeatedly. Now, it doesn't sound like a woman who is doing her best mentally, basically. So at 3:15 PM, she's still talking nonstop, and she tried to go out the door. Now, at this point, I want you to realize there is somebody in with her, normally a female, that is in with her, but they are not speaking to her. If she talks to them, they do not answer. They just are in there watching her every move. And there is a guard outside the door. Does that sound like rest and relaxation? 'Cause it doesn't to me. I would not be very restful or relaxed if I was in a room and there was some person that I don't know in there with me, and all they were doing was just staring at me, watching everything I did, and somebody outside the door guarding it, making sure I don't leave the room. But, you know, they're a church. In my opinion, it was clear at this point that Lisa was suffering some sort of a mental, psychosis, and I just cannot help but wonder what caused her to go from absolutely declared clear to this in 2 months. And honestly, even more so that in this, in 24 hours, she went from having a car accident that she was clear enough headed to know that, "Hey, if I strip off my clothes and say I need to talk to somebody, they're gonna let me talk to somebody. I'm gonna get some help." And yet 24 hours later, she's talking out of her head, just jabbering all the time. Clearly, clearly, this was beyond rest and relaxation. This was beyond what any church should ever attempt to handle. So did the church get her medical attention? No. If they had, perhaps we would be here telling a completely different story. Like I said, maybe we'd be telling her exit story. Now, November 19th. This afternoon, Lisa walked like a robot. And then it says, "What is new?" If she starts talking, she talks and stares at one spot. She also tries to push buttons on me. I don't know if that's like she tries to push my buttons kind of a thing. And then it says what she never did before. So I guess she didn't try to push buttons before. I don't know. She says that I am her and that she is controlling my body. And she kissed me on the mouth. Once I let her sit outside for 5 minutes. Now, keep in mind that for the last 17 days of her life, this is the only mention of her being able to go outside of that room at all. But she got out there and I guess, she was acting out and so 5 minutes was it. She was talking out of her head and, kinda acting up, so they took her right back in. Again, I want to stress to you, she is confused mentally, everything, and again, they are not talking to her. They were not allowed to talk to her. I don't understand why. And again, that's another one of those things that it's not explained. You know, Church of Scientology doesn't ever explain anything. They never defend, they always attack. So the woman that was with her goes on to say she took my arm, sorry, and put it on her tummy and then went with her tongue over my face. I brought her back to bed. So, she licked this woman's face. I'm thinking, bless her heart, I'm not laughing at her. I swear to God, it's that nervous kind of deal. But kind of the ridiculousness that this is going on, and yet this quote unquote church still thinks that they're the ones to help her. It's because they are so against any kind of psychiatric care that, they think they can just have her there and give her vitamins and that she'll get over this. November 20th, she has difficulties even to swallow just a tiny bit of water. We're what, 3? Yeah, 3 days in, and she already can't swallow? She got 2 sips of protein drink down. Right now, she is again jumping out of bed over and over. So now it has moved from being a simple mental psychosis that she's having to there's clearly a physical problem on day 3, and they don't do anything. Absolutely nothing. Okay. November 22nd, and yeah, they skipped a day. I didn't leave that day out. They didn't chart on that day, or they removed it. We don't know. I went into the room. She was totally type 3. Now, in Scientology, that means that she was psychotic or even a potential trouble source. And what that means is that she would have been blabbering. She was incoherent, nonstop, shaking. The woman did note that she had no warm clothes on. She was wearing a bra top and shorts and shoes with no socks. She fell asleep for 4 hours and got up. And she said, I finally chased her around the place 50 times. Got on socks, or I'm sorry, got on slacks, a t shirt, a jacket, socks, and shoes. She was like an ice cube. She's in a hotel room in Florida where, it's about what it is right now in Florida as far as temperature. She should not be that cold. This is clearly not just a mental psychosis. This is clearly something is physically wrong. And the fact that she's not able to eat or drink, and this is like day 5, and she's still not eating or drinking. She talked incoherently hour after hour. She refused to eat, spit out everything. Her her breath was foul and she looked like measles and chickenpox on her face. And she had a fever to my touch. Did they call an ambulance? No. Did they get her some help? No. Keep in mind this is the same church in the same city that called an ambulance for the guy that got a little spot of blue Fun Run powder on his back, but not for Lisa McPherson, who hadn't eaten now by like 5 days, was out of her head, looked like she had measles and chickenpox and a fever, and she couldn't swallow. No ambulance, no help, not even a doctor. Not even a doctor. After 1 p.m., she went violent. She hit me a few times, telling me in a rage that she was to kill me, numbers of times. I called in the guard from outside. That's the guard that would be on the outside of the door. He stayed with me during the rage, but she still smacked me around. I'm almost like saying, "Good for you, Lisa. Good for you." I did cover and guard myself, but she was out of control. And then was I right on that timeline? Hold on just a second. I'm sorry. Yeah, I am. November 30th. There's 8 days missing. 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., awake on the floor, scooting around, moving her arms and legs, speaking and groaning. Keep in mind, still not eating, still not drinking, nothing. 1:30 to 5 a.m., I probably got the equivalent of 3 valerian root capsules into her. It took 4 feedings over a 4.5 period to do it. That was just to get the capsules, not actual feedings. That was just the capsules. Now, valerian root is an herbal supplement that is used for a sleep aid, a muscle relaxant, an anxiety reducer, and to calm you, basically. But no paramedics, no doctors, and absolutely no mercy. Again, she wrote in here, she said, she will appear to be very cooperative, hold her mouth open, make eye contact, and act as if she's there. Then close the back of her throat and not swallow. I'm not really sure. I don't know how you close the back of your throat, like consciously. I mean, maybe she couldn't swallow. I mean, she couldn't swallow before, but now I guess this is a medical diagnosis by a Sea Org member. My idea of closing her nose so that she has to swallow so she can breathe through her mouth is only marginally successful. 9:15 a.m. I got a small amount of the banana and shake mixture into her and about an ounce of tea. She is much more physically strong this morning. She sits up frequently and for long periods of time, whereas yesterday I only saw her sit up once. She was lying on the floor, scooting around. She's using her legs to kick again. They said that she would lay on the floor and she would scoot around and she would try to kick them and keep them away from her. But it says yesterday it wasn't much of a threat. I guess she was getting so weak that the kicks weren't really effective. And then it says PPS, I guess like, PS, but this is PPS. Lisa has come uptone. Now, in Scientology speak, uptone means that they are operating at a higher emotional tone level. And so to be uptone, it kind of means that they are positive, they are energetic, cooperative, emotionally stable, spiritually lighter, and more rational. And yet, she's lying on the floor trying to kick them. She won't swallow. She's, moaning and groaning. Does that sound like she's uptone? Not to me. She was apathetic yesterday, physically and in her communications, which just means that she had little or no emotion, interest, enthusiasm, or concern for anything. But she was uptone? It doesn't even make sense. Not even on Scientology standards does it even make sense. Just a couple spurts of anger and not very determined at that. Well, yeah, she's like almost 2 weeks into no food, no water, no sunlight, no baths, nothing. And other stuff that I haven't even discussed yet. It says this AM, and I want you to remember that this is when she was described as being uptone and that, she was all those great things that is, right? She is deliberate and nasty and even evil. And yet they were saying on this one, or was it that she's positive, energetic, cooperative, emotionally stable, spiritually lighter, and more rational, and yet in the same day, she is deliberate, nasty, and evil. Make it make sense. December 2nd, 1 AM to 3 AM. I gave her 4 valerian root capsules, 4 Orienthane, and she says, "I'm not positive of the name. I haven't seen the bottle." But it's one of the herbal sleeping preparations, and the pot's approximately, 6 ounces of cow mag. That's a lot to drink, considering that's probably more than she's gotten at any other time in this ordeal. She has gotten drowsy from time to time, but at 3 AM, she is still awake and talking. And yet, no doctor, no nurse, no paramedics, nothing. We also cut her fingernails. This will reduce the risk of scratches to herself and us. She has scratches and abrasions all over her body, elbows, and knees. She has pressure sores. None of them are open, and none of them look infected. At 8 a.m., I will give her more of the herbal sleep preparations and will be in contact with Janice. That's the medical professional that doesn't even have a license about other measures to ensure that she gets some serious sleep tonight. We're not worried about the fact that she's not eating, that she can't eat. We're not worried about the fact that she can't sleep and that she's talking out of her head and that she's like, you know, evil. We're not worrying about any of that, but we're going to make sure she goes to sleep. Then she says the finances on Lisa's protein drinks ran out last night. I was in communication with a security guard who said the source of the money was Lisa's employer. He thought that he could get some more money from him in the morning. How much could they possibly have been spending on her? I mean, honestly, if you can't afford to house somebody and give them real care, then don't. But no, Scientology was so scared of her going and getting psychiatric care. I don't know. My opinion is why? What were they so afraid of? I don't know. And why was a security guard aware of her finances? I mean, really, think about that. One of these little security guards that you see on the protest videos that are running around on a bicycle or standing outside a building or something, playing rent a cop kind of deal. I'm not talking about the actual police officers. I'm talking about their little security guards. He's the one that was in charge of her finances and getting more from Lisa's employer. December 3rd. Keep in mind she died on the 5th. 11:30 a.m. Tried to feed her again, but she wouldn't take anything. She thought that we were psychos or the enemies who wanted to kill her. Well, I imagine that after 2 weeks, a little over actually, that she probably is, if she wasn't already, she would definitely be talking out of her head, confused, delirious, if she's had no food or nearly, no drinks or nearly, um, nothing measurable really except for the ounce on that one day and the 6 ounces another day that I saw on the logs. So, I mean, other than that, it was a couple of sips here or there. Imagine if you went 15, 16 days and you had not eaten or drank anything or been outside and you are still in a room with a woman you do not know who will not communicate with you, but holds you down to try to force you to eat when you can't and calls a male security guard in there to actually sit and watch you too. There was a lot of talk about how they held her down and everything too, and that she would try to bite them. And again, she would be unclothed and I don't know. I mean, was she wrong? Aren't they kind of in a way psychos that are trying to kill her? I mean, I know they're not, but I can absolutely understand where she was coming from, especially the fact that nobody would even speak to her. That's inhumane. If I found a dog that had been hit by a car on the side of the road and was dying, I would be speaking to it, trying to comfort it. No, not here. At 10 a.m., she slept most of the time, several hours of really good, deep sleep. When she awakened this AM, she was very confused and combative. 2 p.m. appears to be awakening. She has tried to stand several times, but she isn't strong enough yet. What do they think is going to make her get strong? She's not eating. She's not drinking. You're not giving her any kind of medication. She looks like she's got the measles and the chicken pox. I mean, and that's just, do they know what the measles or chicken pox are? I mean, that's their words. I am going to feed her some mashed banana and protein powder. I have been in communications with the security guards about getting more money for her. At 3 p.m., so that's an hour later, she's resting now. She originated that she knows that we are trying to help her, although she doesn't know our names and we don't talk to her. She doesn't even know. The rest of her communication, she is confused. She's had a couple ounces of water. Body-wise, she's very restful and gentle. I mean, just a little bit earlier, she was combative, but she has tried to stand a couple of times, but she isn't strong enough. In a hospital, they would've first of all, she would have been eating and drinking, or they would have given her food through a stomach tube or, something. But they would have also been getting her up and helping her to walk and moving her muscles around, moving her legs and everything. I've been in the hospital and not able to get up, and they don't just let you lay there. They, especially on the floor a lot of this time, they do things to help you gain strength. At 6:30 p.m., fixed more bananas and protein powder and half and half. Now, at that point, that's the last thing we know, because the last 3 days of her life, the orders were or the records were ordered destroyed by Marty Rathbun in agreement with Mike Rinder to protect the church. But we do know that on December 5th, 1995, Scientologists, quote unquote, caring for Lisa McPherson, worry that she has become seriously ill. She is now unresponsive, likely in a coma at this point. So they drive her to a hospital in Newport Richey, which is 45 minutes away. They drive past 4 closer hospitals so that she can be seen by Dr. David Minkoff, who's a Scientologist. He had refused to give her any antibiotics or anything unless he saw her. So, you know, they had to take her somewhere, I guess. On arrival, Lisa McPherson wasn't breathing. She had no heartbeat. She's gaunt, bruised, and unkempt. and Minkoff pronounced her dead. There was no local obituary, no public police report about her death. On December 16th of 1996, which is a year later, news of her death leaked out. So for a year, people didn't even know she died. Well, I mean, her parents did, but not anybody in Scientology. And the church's version is that she checked into the Fort Harrison Hotel for rest and relaxation and suddenly fell ill. No, she was already ill and she got worse every day for 17 days while they did nothing. In January of 1997, again, another year, a little over, the Pinellas Roscoe State Attorney's Office and the Department of Law Enforcement joined Clearwater Police in the investigation. So, after a year that they have found out that she died, they finally really start investigating it. The medical examiner, Joan Wood, tells reporters that there is no way that McPherson suddenly fell ill. It on her death certificate, it had said undetermined at that point. So February 19th of 1997, Lisa's relatives file a wrongful death suit against the Church of Scientology, alleging that Scientologists allowed her to languish in a coma without nutrition and liquids while she was held in isolation at the Fort Harrison. And then in November 13th of 1998, after reviewing the Lisa McPherson case for 11 months, the state attorney, Bernie McCabe, dropped the charges. Hold on, I'm sorry. No, he filed. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't read my own writing. He filed charges against the Church of Scientology for 2 felony counts of practicing medicine without a license and abuse of a disabled adult. Okay. She wasn't disabled when she went in there. If she became disabled, it was because of their lack of treatment on her. Okay, so that was in 98. February of 2000, after reviewing medical information provided by the Church of Scientology, Wood, the medical examiner, she changed the death certificate. She amends the manner of death from undetermined to accident. On June 12th of 2000, with his review complete, McCabe drops the charges against Church of Scientology. Now, in his defense, when the medical examiner said that the cause of death was an accident, that took it, he couldn't do anything else. He can't charge them with an accident, like that they accidentally did anything. So it was kind of out of his hands, but still. Isn't it always like it's out of their hands when it's Scientology? On May 26th of 2004, the Church of Scientology and the estate of Lisa McPherson reached a settlement, the terms of which are confidential. Now, y'all, I am going to show you now the autopsy photos that are the least graphic, but I just want to give you an idea of the shape that she was reduced to. The We saw the pictures of what she looked like and I will show some of that later too, but I wanna show these, and it's just one slide that's got a few pictures on it, and they are the least of the graphic. I'm not trying to upset anybody. These are the bruises. Now, she was also covered in bites, what they were calling measles and chicken pox were actually bed bug bites and roach bites. What I can't understand is how does a physically healthy woman go from this next picture to the one that's with it in 17 days by accident? Now, I will warn you, it does show her face post-mortem. So, this was 2 months apart. So, y'all, I just wanna say that when you see the protesters out there protesting Scientology, or when a judge asks somebody like Aaron Smith Levin what his beef with Scientology is, remember that face. Those faces of the same woman 2 months apart. She was tortured, y'all. I don't mean that they physically tied her up and, shoved stuff under her nails. That's not the kind of torture I'm talking about. I'm talking about it was inhumane what was done to her. I mean, they basically starved her to death by not getting her help. A hospital could have fixed that. She could have been fed. She could have been given fluids. If they had just left her alone and not went in there. Now, I want you to also keep in mind that Mike Rinder said himself that he didn't know about cases of child molestation because he was so busy trying to fix the Lisa McPherson case, trying to shut that down. That's all he was able to work on. And so he didn't know, which I call bullshit on. He knew everything that was going on. And any of the former Scientologists will tell you that. As head of OSA, he knew exactly what was going on. But I just want you to remember when you see these people out protesting and they're saying no children in Scientology and all that, they mean that. But they're also protesting for people like Lisa McPherson and Whitney Mills. Whitney Mills, who set herself on fire and then shot herself. I'm going to show you this last slide. Again, it's going to show her face, a little more of her face, actually. The first picture is the young lady that her family hugged and saw off to Clearwater, Florida. And this is what they got back. But it was an accident. If it had been a car accident, if she had fallen or something, this was no accident. Absolutely not. This poor woman. And that's why I protest this cult, is because of her and because of Jenna Miscavige and because of Kelly Copter and because of Whitney Mills. And I could go on and on and on and on. But whenever you see those protests and stuff, I just want you to realize that this is what they're protesting. They don't have a beef with Scientology. They were trafficked and many of them were sexually abused and they have been forced to disconnect from family. They've had family members that have died. Aaron's brother died before he was able to see him because he was forced to disconnect from him when his brother left Scientology. He has a half brother that he still hasn't seen because there's a disconnection policy and his brother can't see him. Aaron's wife, Heather, she doesn't see her family, her parents, her siblings, their wives, their children. This is not a church. There is no reason that they should be allowed to call themselves a church and to get a tax exemption and to have the police kiss their asses. These are horrible people, and I'm not talking about the Sea Org members. I'm not talking about the Scientologists that, they're in a cult too. I'm not mad at them. I'm talking about the ones that are running the show. I'm talking about those. And yeah, even as I am so incredibly angry at Marty Rathbun and Mike Rinder and so many more, I also see that they are also victims. You can be both a victim and a perpetrator. Lisa McPherson was a victim. She did absolutely nothing wrong, and they failed her. Grossly, negligently failed her. And that in and of itself is enough that I just don't see how that they can be allowed to continue to operate. But money talks. Money talks. I am gonna look at the, starred comments. We don't have a lot. I didn't really expect a lot. There's a lot going on in Clearwater tonight, which is good. I want everybody to watch that, but come back to here. I hope that they come back to here and watch this on the replay because I didn't even know roaches bit, but I looked it up and they do. I didn't even know that. It just it it's the whole thing is disgusting. Keep My Shorts says sending support. Thank you so much, Steve. You are always very supportive. I just really appreciate you. Hey, Gary. Good evening, Susie. Hope you and Mark are doing well. We are. We're doing very well, actually. Gary says, okay, I'm going to try a test. Time for pills, so I'm going to try to close off my throat and hold the pills from going down in that manner. He's not back, so I hope he's okay. Marilee says, hi, Steve. Such a heartbreaking story. It absolutely is, Marilee. Absolutely. He says, yes, it is so sad. The poor young lady and her poor family. Coco Mom 2021. Susie, I watched Feral Cheryl's stream. It was so amazing, the love everyone had. I'm glad. I haven't got to watch it yet. I'm going to sit down after this and go watch the streams because I've been busy all day and haven't had a chance. But after this, I need the uplift. So I'm gonna go watch those. Marilee says, "Hi, Coco Mom. That's wonderful. I'm glad you've joined us. The more people talk about Lisa, hopefully it will help bring down Scientology." Absolutely. And Coco's mom says, "Yes, it needs to stop." Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, Gary? I don't know that I have necessarily sympathy. I understand that in some ways that they were also victims, but they both could have done a lot even once they got out, and they failed in that. And so I on one hand want to give them some grace, on the other I'm like, you know, it's just not there. I sorry. Heat says, "Thank you for bringing this to light, Susie. I know this wasn't easy. You did a nice job." Well, thank you. I actually did another video a year ago about Lisa that I did give a little more detail if anybody that is watching this one wants to watch it. There are also a lot of other SBTV creators, which is just suppressive people, TV, anti Scientology content. There are a lot of us that have done Lisa McPherson content over the years. And so, you can actually even just put her name into a search engine on YouTube and find it. So, um, it's there's a lot of good information out there. You can also Google. It's very helpful. But yeah, I just I want you all to just remember that face, that young woman. I think about, this young woman in Dallas. I mean, she's old. She would have been older than me, but the thing is that we are close enough in age that I keep thinking that, as somebody from Dallas, where I'm in Tulsa, or, close to Tulsa, at this point, we really could have been living very much the same lifestyle, if she hadn't gotten in with Scientology. I mean, she should be married and have children and grandchildren and absolutely living her best life at this point. And instead, she died this horrific way. And the only thing is, I hope, and this, I don't mean this to sound weird, but I really do kind of hope that she really was so out of her head by the time that it got really bad, that time went fast, that she was not conscious of a lot of what was going on. I don't know that. That's my hope for her, because I just can't imagine, having your wits about you and on any level, and that going on. It's inhumane. It is absolutely inhumane, and I don't know how it can just be an accident, That's not an accident. You don't accidentally starve to death, and you it's not an accident. So, anyway, I thank you. Thank you so much, John, in the background, for starring these comments for me. Thank you to the mods that are here. Thank you to the people that are in chat and the people that will come on the replay. This story means a lot to me, and if y'all hear somebody snoring, that's my bulldog, Poppy. I don't know if you can hear her or not, but she is sawing some serious logs. But, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go have some dinner with my husband and watch those watch Cheryl's her stream so I can some happy thoughts, right? Happy thoughts. I will be back tomorrow with another um, Vlogmas. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.
Hope you enjoyed the show, so glad you were here. We meet here most days, we're but first coffee and you're welcome here. We talk about hard subjects, but we also laugh a lot. If you have a loss or win, we will cheer for you. We're but first coffee and you are safe here. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't want to miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't want to miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all.